Oh no, so you say Neanderthals and humans never met.
Well, let's get that right. Let's get it the way it should be. I'm saying that there's no objective evidence that humans and Neanderthals ever met. You know, let's do a little bit of history. Ever since they found the first Neanderthal in the mid-19th century, there's been all kinds of theories thrown around of how the Neanderthals disappeared. And I'd say 90 to 99% of them have to do with humans. We either killed them off, we outcompeted them, we were better at hunting or whatever, we had more children than they did, and the latest one is that we intermarried with them, that we called admixture. And that means that, you know, we mated with them, and we, humans, are the offspring. We are the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals never disappeared, they became us. Okay, that's the theory today, the reigning theory. Okay, and so the issue here is that because 90 to 99% of the theories always involve man, they had to invent, or what developed from there was a competition for the last Neanderthal. They had to make sure that Neanderthal lived to a greater age, like to 30,000 years ago, and then humans came in to Europe earlier, like maybe 40,000 or 45,000 years ago. They had to make sure that humans had something to do with the disappearance of Neanderthals. Okay? And here you can see it from the papers themselves. Here's Finlayson, 1999. A Middle Paleolithic industry was recovered associated with a hearth. So here it tells you how they figured this out. From which charcoal was dated to circa 32 to 33,000 years ago. Artifacts from these levels are of Mousterian tradition. Mousterian is the Neanderthal technology. So this guy's saying, okay, we found a Neanderthal and we dated him to 32 to 33,000 years ago, right? A couple months later, a few months later, 2000, here we have Ovchinnikov, and he says, oh no, the last Neanderthal died in my turf. Radiocarbon dating estimated the specimen to be 29,000 years ago, and therefore from one of the latest living Neanderthals. Okay, so now he beat the other guy by 3,000 years. Okay, so now what happens? Richards comes, 2000. The two Neanderthal specimens were dated to 29,000 years before the present and 28,000 years before the present, making them the youngest directly dated Neanderthal specimens in Europe. So now you beat them by 1,000 years, right? And then Finlayson comes back, 2006. Here we present data based on a high-resolution record of human occupation of Gorham's Cave, Gibraltar, that established the survival of a population of Neanderthals to 28,000 years before the present. These Neanderthals are the last currently recorded anywhere.
That's always the punchline.
Yeah, it's a competition for who got the last Neanderthal. Okay. And they get their names in lights, and they get to do all these things.
Yeah.
Now, what threw a bucket of cold ice, cold water, on the Neanderthal competition, on the last Neanderthal competition, was a study made by Tom Hyam. He's from the carbon-14 group lab that dates all kinds of findings, right? Dates all kinds of samples and specimens in Oxford. And he's considered an authority at least as far as carbon-14 dating. And at least you can say, well, he's trying to be as consistent as possible across the board. So if he dates this 30,000 years, more than likely when he dates something else, it's going to be in reference to that. Whether you accept the absolute values or not, they're at least reference to each other. Okay? And he says, we show that the Mousterian, the technology that the Neanderthals had, we show that the Mousterian ended by 41 to 39,000 calibrated years before the present across Europe. The last Neanderthals did not survive after 41,000 to 39,000 calibrated years before the present. So that means the Neanderthals, according to Tom Hyam and his group, died around, rounding off, 40,000 years ago. So this threw a bucket of cold ice on all these other claims that the Neanderthals survived to 30,000, 29,000, 28,000 years ago.
Why does he have more authority?
No, I'm not saying he does. All I'm saying is that he's trusted, first of all, across the board. Second, he's got his readings reference to his other readings. So they're all, he's consistent within himself.
Okay.
Okay? And this was a bucket of cold ice because all these people were claiming that Neanderthals survived to 30,000 years ago. This guy is saying, no, they died 10,000 years earlier. Now this created a problem for all the people who had theories based on the fact that humans had something to do with the extinction of the Neanderthals. Because if humans did not appear, let's assume that, right? If humans did not appear in Europe until, let's say, 35,000 years ago, and here the Neanderthals died 5,000 years earlier, we had nothing to do with the extinction of the Neanderthals. This created a problem, that's all I'm saying.
By appear in Europe, you mean that they came...
Supposedly the general theory is that humans migrated out of Africa and they went north to Europe. But they entered Europe around 35,000 years ago. Or we're going to make that assumption. Let's assume that humans did come into Europe no earlier than 35,000 years ago. If the Neanderthals died 40,000 years ago, they never met. And humans had nothing to do with the extinction of the Neanderthals. Here you have the case. It's Trinkos 2003. Directly accelerated mass spectrometry radiocarbon, C14, right, dated to 34,000 to 36,000 years before the present. The OACE-1 mandible is the oldest definite early modern human specimen in Europe. So according to this reading, if we're going to look at objective data, if there's anything like, we can even imagine that.
The closest thing to it.
The closest thing to it. The first human enters, that we found so far, right, enters Europe 35,000 years ago, and the last Neanderthal died 40,000 years ago, according to this group's readings. And they're trusted, and a lot of them are accepted widely by the paleontology, guild, the people in paleontology. So what happened next? Well, they went from the... Since they had a problem there, they said, well, hold it, if the first human entered 5,000 years after the Neanderthals died, well, maybe humans had nothing to do with the Neanderthal. We can't believe that because 90 to 99% of our theories, of our beliefs, are that humans did cause the extinction of the Neanderthals one way or another.
Why do they cling so much on the humans being...
Because they can't figure out any other reason how the Neanderthals could have died all by themselves.
Okay.
And so what happened was a new competition developed. And this is redating or reclassifying human specimens, Neanderthal specimens, and they're reclassifying them as humans.
What? Wait.
Yeah,
they have Neanderthal bones and they're calling them humans?
More or less, that's essentially what they're doing. They don't have a whole head because that would be too obvious. But if they have one tooth, and they say, well, this tooth really did not belong to Neanderthal, it was really human. And it's dated to 45,000 years ago, now we can see how they met and they mingled and they did all their stuff. So now they're redating, or either redating or reclassifying.
So this bone is 40,000 years ago, and instead of calling it a Neanderthal bone 40,000 years ago, they're calling it a human. It's a 40,000-year-old human bone.
You got it.
Okay.
That's what they're doing. And here we have a case. It's also from Hyam's group. He says KC4, that's Kent Cavern 4. Number 4, dates to 44,000 to 41,000 years before the present.
Where is Kent Cavern?
That's in England, right? This makes it older than any other equivalently dated modern human specimen. Okay? That's what he says in his report. But he adds something which shows you how they're playing around with this. We also show that in 13 dental traits, KC4, Kent Cavern 4, possesses modern human rather than Neanderthal characteristics. 3 other traits show Neanderthal affinities, and a further 7 are ambiguous.
So they don't know what they have.
They don't know what they have, but they want to consider it a human because that way they can show that, see, humans were in England, 44,000 years before the present, so they had 4,000 years until the Neanderthal disappeared to mingle and meet and mingle.
Yep.
And here's another example of the same thing, Benazzi 2011. Here we reanalyze the deciduous molars, right, from the Grotta del Cavallo. Originally classified as Neanderthal, we show that the Cavallo specimens can be attributed to anatomically modern humans. The teeth must date to 45,000 to 43,000 calendar years before the present. So now they're taking all these Neanderthal bones, calling them humans, and they see, these people were, humans were in Europe 45,000 years before the present. Neanderthals died 40,000 years because everybody's now accepting more or less Tom Himes' group findings. And they say, see, there are 5,000 years where we mixed and mingled. The issue is that all the theories that are based on humans having something to do with the extinction of the Neanderthals are based on, the two species having met, and encountered each other.
At the very least being in the same time period.
Right, and all I'm saying is there's no objective evidence right now that they were at the same place at the same time anywhere. We don't have objective evidence for this. That's the first point. So any theory based on humans having something to do with the extinction of the Neanderthals is, you cannot take for granted the assumption that we even met. That's the first one. And the second one is that, there's a lot of playing around with the dates and the samples because people they already made up their minds of what they want to prove. And now they're just modifying the data, they're playing around with the data to make it fit their preconceived, conclusion.
Hugo. So, what do you think we should do with the admixture theorists? Well, let me tell you what I think. Cowabunga!